More Manchester United leaks have come out today, and it's very obvious where the leaks are coming from. They're coming from English players and players at Man United who are actually told by Ten Hag, you are free to leave the club, you're not in my plans, if the right offer comes in, I'm going to accept it. But some of these players did have offers coming in, but they decided to stay for the money. And now they're not happy that they're at United and they're not playing, and they're calling out Ten Hag for favouritism and saying that Ten Hag scapegoats them and stuff. So they're going to Samuel Luckers and leaking things like players have been doing for years at United. And Mark Goldbridge pretty much summed up this whole situation perfectly. I want you to take a listen on what he has to say as well.
Do you genuinely think that Martinez or Onana or Casemiro or Højlund or Bruno are picking up the phone to Samuel Luckhurst? You're having a fucking laugh.
He's literally spot on. People will be so quick to blame Casemiro, Eriksen, Bruno, and Nana for our problems. We already see the media going in, and Nana's this big problem at United, and Nana's this big problem at United. And it's like, why aren't they talking about the real problems at United in the media? That actually, we know it's the English players that contact Samuel Luckhurst. And bear in mind, the reason I'm so annoyed at these leaks is because Samuel Luckhurst loves it. As soon as we get free bad results every single season, Samuel Luckhurst is out with the dressing room sources, the leaks. And it's very obvious there's been people in that Man United camp for years that when things aren't going their way, they go to Samuel Luckhurst and leak things. And people are too busy focusing on Bruno and Onana and Eriksen and Casemiro to realise actually the real problem is some of the player attitudes. But Goldbridge says some other things that are really important.
That's not how it works. And we've been here before. And it's, dressing room sources, it's like the boy who cried wolf. Every one of these journalists that go dressing room sources, you may as well give us the fucking name, because we know it's 3 or 4 people, because it's the same 3 or 4 people all the time. And we also know the culture. The culture in this country is to protect British players.
He's 100% spot on. You see, Maguire's getting abuse. I don't agree with some of the abuse Maguire's getting, but as soon as Maguire gets a bit stick, there's about 20 people in the world of football that come out speaking about Maguire, how they feel so sorry for Maguire. And then you get Graham Souness saying those horrible, vile things about Paul Pogba the other day. And I'm thinking, all these people that go, oh, Harry Maguire, mental health and football. When it's Paul Pogba, they say, oh, he's rubbish, oh, he's lazy, oh, he's useless. And it's like the British players at United are so protected, but also we know that some of those British players are the ones that are leaking, because let's be honest, why would Onana ring up Samuel Luckhurst and say that? The only people Samuel Luckhurst is going to have links to are the British players. And we've had leaks and leaks and leaks for years. Dean Henderson got the blame. Eric Bailly got the blame, and he was responsible for some. But actually, it's more and more obvious that whoever was leaking stuff's probably been here a while. It could be Sancho. It could even be Maguire. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Like, the fact that the leaks coming out are basically saying that Ten Hag is harsher on some players than other and has favourites and is quick to call out some players more than others, basically is exactly what Sancho said in his scapegoat statement. So I wouldn't be surprised if the leaks are coming out from Sancho's side. But if I'm Samuel Luckhurst, instead of spreading all this negativity about leaks and players turning on Ten Hag, if I was Samuel Luckhurst, I'd name who was leaking it. I'd be saying, this player keeps coming to me and saying this, and that. Because all he's doing by spreading these leaks is causing more negativity at United, when he really could be just addressing the problem 100%. Goldbridge continues by saying,
and blame foreign players. So who do you think the people are who are giving the journalists the info? It's the protected players, you fucking idiot. Of course it is. Come on, I'm just fed up of it. I'm fed up of it. And Man United should do something about it as well. Because if we can figure it out, they should figure it out. And look, Man United literally cannot afford to sack another manager, and we cannot afford this season to go tits up. The players in the dressing room, if you've not figured it out, you should be calling it out. Ten Hag should be calling it out. Look, if we need a mutiny to go where we need to go, kick them all into the fucking reserves, kick them all into the kids, into the youth setup, and fuck them off.
He's absolutely spot on here. Instead of Samuel Luckhurst spreading these negative stories about United, oh, Ten Hag's done this, Ten Hag's done that, trying to turn, sort of fans against the manager and all of this, and this whole protection of British players. Samuel Luckhurst, as a foreign player, does something. He's very quick to call them out, but very protective of British players. You know what? Call them out. Call out the leakers, and it doesn't matter if it affects our season, because if we just put them in the reserves and we get them out the dressing room, yes, short term it might impact us because we're thin on injuries. but long term it could be perfect. Call out the leakers. The players should, the manager should, the press should call out the leakers. And you know what? Cut our losses with them in January. Even if we have to let them go for free, cut our losses with them in January, because we need a whole culture reset at United. I see people saying Ten Hag out, Ten Hag out. It doesn't matter if we get another manager. The culture at United is a disgrace. The biggest problem with United is those above, and we're going to go in with those at the top of United very, very soon. But the culture at United, as soon as things go wrong, there are dressing room leaks coming out. There is players going against the manager, complaining against the manager. All of a sudden, the manager is getting the blame for absolutely everything as well. And Ten Hag said in his press conference today, the whole Sancho situation depends on him. For the rest, we are preparing for Burnley and we'll focus on that. But you know what? Any player, whether it's Jadon Sancho, whether it's other players, any player that is turning on Erik Ten Hag, just go, get them out the squad, name and shame them. The players should name and shame them, call them out, saying, why are you leaking this? Ten Hag should call them out, why are you leaking this? Because Goldbridge is right. It's so obvious who's leaking it. And all that happens is you get people like Luckhurst who thrive off this stuff, put out these leaks, try and turn fans against the manager. When the manager's sat, we appoint the new manager, and then we don't change anything above the new manager. Things go wrong, the players go stale. As soon as we get a few bad results, the players that aren't playing go absolutely stale. But I wanted you to listen to the ending of what Goldbridge says, because I think this is where he hits the nail on the head.
Like, that's what needs to happen, but it can't happen. It's what I was talking about the power play. It cannot happen, because if you kick them all into the reserves, you've got £200 million worth of player there on probably about £1 million a week in wages, and the Glazers are going, this can't happen. And then what you want to do is you want to get...
Because it's all about money. Instead of kicking out the problem, instead of selling the players to the problem, the Glazers refused to sell some of the players Ten Hag wanted to sell, because they said, well, we're not spending the money to replace them, and we spent so much money on them, and they're on such high wages, they've got to play, you've got to make it work. Again, it goes down to the ownership. They're not kicking out the bad eggs, because the owners don't care if they're causing a problem on the football field. They don't care if they're making the manager's job harder. The owners think about money.
Get a fish and whack it around their face and say, wake up. What do you want me to do? I can't pick them because they are shit and I didn't buy them. And when I don't pick
100%.
them, they're leaking to the press and being miserable, causing issues, and you won't sell them. Like, in a way, I sort of understand why these players are pissed off. You know, they're stuck in a stupid place as well. It all goes back to the Glazers.
And he's spot on. The players that are unhappy aren't playing because they're not good enough to play, and Ten Hag didn't sign them. You know, Ten Hag was open to selling Sancho and Maguire and McTominay, but basically some of them the board refused to sell because they couldn't find replacements because we didn't get enough money for. The players that are unhappy are players that the manager doesn't want, and the manager's not going to play because he doesn't rate them because they're not particularly good, but they're not allowed to go because the owners won't let them go. And if the owners do let them go, they won't buy Ten Hag a replacement. And, you know, sometimes Goldbridge is right. It's not completely the player's fault. It's not completely Jadon Sancho's fault, this whole situation. He's acting like an absolute idiot, but Ten Hag told Sancho he's free to leave, but the board said, yeah, you can sell Sancho, but we ain't buying you anyone, we ain't placing anyone. And because of Sancho's wages and he wasn't willing to take a wage cut, no one was willing to give us a good bid for Sancho. If Chelsea can get 65 million for Kai Havertz and we can't even get 30 million for Sancho, and I think Sancho's a better player than Havertz, it says a lot. And as Goldbridge says, every single problem at United, it goes back to the ownership. It goes back to them thinking about money, not selling players that Ten Hag doesn't want. And when you don't sell players Ten Hag doesn't want, they don't play. And when things go wrong, they use it as an opportunity to leak stuff because they know that some fans will turn against the manager.
Because if you're owned by Qatar, all of them are gone. Get out. There's your paycheck. Piss off.
And he's spot on. If the Qataris were here, we wouldn't let this kind of stuff happen. And I made a cycle of Manchester United a couple of days ago. And I said, when the manager gets a few bad results, the board and ownership become under more pressure. Man United use media to direct that negativity towards the manager and get fans to turn on the manager. Then lies and leaks come out about the manager and signings, dressing room leaks start to come out, and it makes it, trying to make it look like everything is the manager's fault. Then fans turn on the manager is sacked, and then a new manager is appointed. But when a new manager is appointed, nothing above the new manager changes. The new manager still has to deal with players that he doesn't want at the club because the board won't sell them. The new manager is not allowed to bring in certain players he wants because it's out of budget. The new manager is not allowed to do a complete reset of the culture because there's restrictions over who he can bring in, even in terms of staff. The new manager then has to deal with players that aren't good enough, that don't want to be here, causing problems in the background, which is a big disruption. They have to deal with the ownership not giving them the full backing and limiting to 3 major signings a summer, which means that rebuilding Man Man United is going to take twice as long at rebuilding at other clubs. They have to deal with incompetent people like Woodward and Murta, who actually are just there to fill a gap. They don't know much about football. They're bankers. They shouldn't be choosing who we sign and sell. We should be getting a proper technical director, footballing director in. And when they finally employed someone that knew something about football, Ralph Rangnick, what did Manchester United do? They took Ralph Rangnick out. They got rid of Ralph Rangnick because Ralph Rangnick said to the board everything they need to do, exactly who they need to get rid of. Basically said, this is what you need to do, and that as well. And that is the thing that winds me up as well. Ten Hag did speak about the dressing room unrest, and he said, I don't know if it's a leak, but I know opinion. I know my players. Everyone can make suggestions. We are okay with it. At United, you have to win games. It doesn't change anything. Eric Ten Hag's ignoring the leaks. And good for him. But you know what? We need the whole club a reset. We need players gone. We need the owners gone. Because when the owners treat the staff like absolute dirt, the players just follow the owners and treat the manager like dirt. And I'm fed up of leaks. I'm fed up with negativity. And I just want you owners. Let me know your thoughts. Smash a like, smash a subscribe. Bye.